This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Hey, what's up, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get into, so we're just going to start with the first one, which is from B. Eric Midday 7469, and my man's question is, are you worried what the team is if Watson is just an above average quarterback? Cleveland media is just assuming he's going to be 2020 Watson when he was in a dome for more than half the games and the team only won 4 games. My concern is, can he / the team win not having his A game, tough vision, tough environments? Well, one, like on the dome thing, I think that's really not that relevant. I think we tend to overrate how much a dome means. Like, it does help for a couple of games a year at the end of the season, right? But when it comes to the bulk of the season, you know, from September to almost up until Christmas, because it really doesn't snow anymore, like in early December. So from September to like mid-December, there's really no crazy environments or tough weather that you really have to deal with, whether you on the road or away, unless you're dealing with like rain, inclement heat. I think the heat, honestly, you deal with the inclement heat down south when you play on the road a little bit more than you have to deal with like snow. Last year was a little bit of a, what would you call it? A little bit of an aberration from the normal, but you know, I don't think it's going to be that big of a problem, but we'll see as crazy weather conditions kind of become more common. But I don't think that what he did in 2020 also is discounted because he played in the dome, if you feel me. The other part of that question is, hey, his team only won 4 games, and this is a legitimate concern, right? I tend to think that the 2020 season for him is a little bit overrated. Like, I think it was the best season he had in his career, but I also think that part of the reason he was also able to put up those gaudy numbers was because the team was awful. And the team wasn't awful because of him. The offense was really good that year. The defense just stunk. And they were just a bad team. Like, this is just not the same situation, right? The Browns have a much better team around Deshaun Watson than the Texans did. Everybody's going to have concerns. Everybody's going to have this. But the truth is, if he gives you above average quarterback play, like Baker Mayfield did in 2020, right? That's above average. It's not elite. It's not 2020 or whatever we're talking about before. It's not 5,000 passing yards. It's an above average quarterback. We know that with this core of this roster, if we get above average quarterback play, the Browns are a 11-5 team. Well, now it'd be 11-6 or 12-5, however it averages out. But they would be a plus 10 win team that has a chance to get to the second round of the playoffs if they just get above average quarterback play. We're not asking Deshaun Watson to carry a bad team. We're asking Deshaun Watson to be the final piece to a great team. So that's the difference, right? I've said this all along. I've said this all off season. If you look at the Browns' history, especially since 2018, when the quarterback play is just above average, this team is really, really good. When the quarterback play is below average, this team isn't that good. You know, I pulled up the record. When they get a quarterback that gives above a 70 grade on Pro Football Focus, they're 26-13. That's an 11-win team by average. When they get like an 80 score on average, you know, like an elite, like if they get elite quarterback play, I think they're like 15-2 or something like that. So the math is right there. It's obvious what this team has around them is real. It's just a question of quarterback play, and that's what we've been asking and wanting to be consistent since 2018, because we know when it's consistent, this team's really good. But thank you for the question. The next question is going to come from Mighty, who says, Q, I saw Watson throw a red zone interception to Everson in camp. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty, or does it even matter? I want the defense to make plays, but it seems like to be in the same area of the field where the last guy struggled and got picked. What's so hard about these guys throwing to the right side of the goal line? All right, let me explain goal line drills. Like on 7-on-7, goal line drills are going to favor the defense for a number of reasons. One, any type of running option that you would have in red zone that you would normally be able to go to in a game are out. So no Nick Chubb running the ball, no end around with Elijah Moore, no read option with Deshaun Watson, no type of real mobility. Since there's no pocket collapsing, there's also no threat of a breakdown happening where Deshaun could just like scamper in there if the secondary forgets their coverages. So now the secondary is allowed to turn their back at the quarterback position because Deshaun can't just take advantage of that in that drill, right? So now they can turn their backs and just like kind of cheat and focus on the wide receivers instead of having to worry about the quarterback threat. So think about it like this. When they're doing red zone drills, and this isn't to say that Deshaun doesn't need to be better. I haven't seen the red zone drills, to be honest with you. So I don't know whether he needs to be better or not. But when you're watching the red zone drills, you're watching 33% of the offense versus like 100% of what the defense can do. Well, not 100, about 70% of what the defense can do, right? It's just not stacked in the offense's favor. They don't have as many options. They could throw a fade, a quick slant, and that's about it in a red zone drill, right? So it shouldn't be that big of a deal if Martin Emerson gets an interception. And again, you want to see the defense and the offense go back and forth. You want to see the offense win some and the defense win some. And as far as the comment about the last guy struggled in the red zone, Baker didn't really struggle in the red zone as much as he struggled everywhere else in the field. I thought he was actually pretty decent in the red zone. Deshaun Watson's whole career, he's been decent in the red zone. There's really no cause of concern for the red zone. Kevin Stefanski, when he's had good quarterback play, he's been pretty efficient in the red zone. When we had bad quarterback play, we haven't been, but like obviously bad quarterback play. But Deshaun's been a good red zone quarterback, and every quarterback that's played had a decent season while Kevin Stefanski was here was actually pretty decent in the red zone. I don't think this is going to be that big of a problem. Last year, it became a problem because they were just flat out predictable in the red zone. All they could do was throw the ball in the red zone. I mean, not throw the ball, run the ball in the red zone. That's why it became an issue later on when teams adjusted to that. And they also addressed this by, getting different passing threats, trying to diversify it and being able to add options in the red zone. But in a red zone drill on a 7-on-7, you don't have the extra options that they added, right? You don't have the read option, the end arounds, the trickeration that you need to run in red zone situations, especially in a drill setting in order to win consistently. So I really wouldn't freak out about it. Red zone things are kind of things you freak out during the season, not before. Ken Adams says, hey, Q, who is more likely to get a contract extension next year, JED, WILLS, or Nick Chubb? Well, it depends on how they perform, right? If Nick Chubb has another 1,500-yard season, he's going to get re-signed. And his number is not going to be so big that you can't bring JED, WILLS back. So I would say if Nick Chubb gets re-signed, then JED, WILLS is definitely probably going to be brought back. If JED, WILLS gets, I don't see a world where JED, WILLS gets a big contract extension and Nick Chubb gets let to walk. I don't think that that's a world that we're going to be living in, but I could be proven wrong on that. I've been wrong about, the contract stuff before. So, don't be mad at me if it happens. I ain't make the decision. All right. Norman here says, hey, Q, Schwartz was a versatile special team and like Bell got limited targets. How likely do you feel one or both of them remains on the roster? They're both going to make the team probably. Yeah, Bell's not even a question whether he's going to make the team. Like David Bell's making the team, y'all. Like it's not a question. Joe says, hey, Q, love the content. Just wondering about the defensive line. And are we one D tackle injury away from being the same last year with a slightly better edge rush? You can't just wave off the slightly better edge rush, though, right? That's going to be a huge difference. And the reason you brought in Jim Schwartz is so if you do end up in that situation, your baseline is going to be much higher than it was last year because Jim can figure out some ways to be a little tricky with that defensive tackle position if it gets down to, just no Dalvin Tomlinson and just the young guys. So yeah, but no, what I mean? The next question is from Micah, who says, how much impact does the preseason actually have on determining the bottom of the roster? Or is it more of a formality and extra moneymaker? It's kind of a formality, right? I don't really think it decides unless something drastic happens in those games, what teams do. And I think it changes from every coaching staff. Some coaching staffs, especially more old school coaching staffs, are going to value what you do in the game versus what you do in practice. And some staffs are going to value what you do in practice. In practice more than what you do in the game. It's really fluid. You know what I mean? Like, people get cut in the NFL not based off of numbers or it's kind of just off vibes. So it all kind of matters, but doesn't matter all at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, coaches are going to cut you based on how they feel about you, not necessarily based on the stats you've accumulated in practice, because you don't. You know what I mean? Like, they're just kind of like, hey, how do I feel about this player? I feel good about him, I'll keep him. If I don't feel good about this player, I won't. It's really off vibes. Like, so I don't think it doesn't matter, and I don't think it's impossible to tell how much is which, because I think it just varies so much from player to player and team to team. T-Mac says, hey, Q, not T-Mac, but TM says, hey, Q, with teams wanting to pay running backs less money, do you see the Browns doing the same thing with Chubb? Even if he has another great season, keep up the amazing work? No. All right. I've said this before, and I think even Nick Chubb brought this up. Nick Chubb, as of right now, does not have the same problems that other running backs have. Right. Him and Derrick Henry, they don't have the problems that the rest of the running backs have. Right. When they're talking about not paying running backs, they're talking about the upper middle class group of running backs that aren't getting paid. That's who's not getting paid. The 1% of running backs that are like elite, those guys are always going to get paid no matter what. If you can get 1,500 yards consistently, you're always going to get paid. I don't care how much analytics go into the decision. I don't care this or that. There's not, Zeke Elliott got paid. Like, it happens, right? The issue is that with Saquon, he hasn't been healthy consistently. So that put him from elite, where he might have been if he would have stayed healthy, to upper middle class running back. Upper middle class running backs have a very hard time getting paid. The 1% of quarterbacks, they don't, right? And Nick Chubb's in that 1%. And as long as he stays in that 1%, he's going to get his money. I think even Andrew Berry said it. They don't even view him as a running back. They view him as an elite playmaker. They're going to pay him. Like, that's just what it is. Running backs are going to get paid if they're the best of the best. The issue is that, like, 2 running backs can get paid, but, like, everybody else don't. And that's where it's kind of messed up, right? But Nick Chubb, he got nothing to worry about as long as he stays at the top of his game. Now, if he dips, he'll be out probably like a year or 2 after that. But the Browns are going to be, the Nick Chubb has been so good for so long that he's the type of running back you let have a bad season on your team before you let him go. He's not the type of running back you let go and hope he's done. You make sure he's done before you let him go. You see what happened with Zeke? They made sure he was done for a couple of years before they let him go, right? You see what's going on with Derrick Henry. It looked like he could have been done. He came back. He was cool. Boom. Nothing changed with him. And then you can even go back to with a guy like Dalvin Cook, who was in that upper middle class. All of a sudden he gets cut before they know he's cooked. So, you know, he had the one slow season and they just kind of cut him. So Nick Chubb's just not in that situation. He gets like unless he has 2 bad seasons, I don't think he's going anywhere. Like, I think people are misreading that. Again, you can't use averages on players who have not been average, right? Like, the averages for Nick Chubb don't matter. I don't care what happens with the rest of the running backs. Nick Chubb's in the top 1% of all running backs in the NFL. He's going to get treated differently. The rules are different for him. The rules are different for Derrick Henry. Everybody else, they have some pretty crap rules and it sucks for them, but that's not going to happen with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's probably going to get what he wants. He's going to get re-signed, you know, if he continues to be elite. KRTA says, hey, Q, I know this isn't a football question, but I want to support you. I was wondering what the difference are between the YouTube memberships and the Patreon subscription. Which one should I consider buying? The YouTube membership gets you pretty much, the YouTube membership gets you that badge. Hold on. The YouTube membership gets you the badge next to your name, and then you also get some of the Patreon perks. So whenever I do a live stream for Patreon only, you get access to that. I think the fantasy football stuff, if I bring that back, the YouTube members will have access to that. So it's basically the same thing as the Patreon, the basic Patreon membership, the $3 one, but the extra $2 gets you a badge next to your name on YouTube, and then the dog check tier gets your name at the bottom of the screen. Also, Patreon members get their name at the end of the video too. But the dog check tier gets your name at the bottom of the screen. And it also gets you access to the exclusive audio only version of the show. And I think Patreon members also get exclusive access to the Discord. So there's a little bit of a difference. The content stuff when it comes to Patreon, that's all the same. Whether you do a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription, you'll get the extra content that's on Patreon. But if you want the badge, that's a YouTube membership. If you want some of the extra features, so like the Discord stuff, the off-platform stuff, then the Patreon might be the right move for you. And if you want your name on the scroll and that extra recognition, then the dog check tier on Patreon will probably be how you want to go. So hope that clears that up. But thank you for asking that question. Next question comes from Will, who says, is there anybody starters excluded you are looking forward to seeing in the first preseason game? I've heard good things about DTR. I want to see him. So probably DTR is who I'm looking forward to seeing. Next question comes from TKS, who says, hey, Q, when looking at our wide receiver room, I see especially, I don't know why it took me so long. I see especially with the potential that we have as a whole. However, that being said, Cooper's our number 1 guy. Do you see Cooper or Watson having the same chemistry together? Like Burrow and Chase? Okay, they're not going to be Burrow and Chase, but they'll be good. They were good last year. You know what I mean? But they're not going to be Burrow or Chase. So that's where I'm at with that one. But thank you guys for asking these questions. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night.